Hi, Chip.
Hello.
I can't even do an intro right now.
Oh
I'm a
my God.
disaster, you guys.
You
We just
look
got
cute
out.
though.
Oh,
You don't
thank
look
you.
tired.
Good thing you can't smell me. You know what I mean? Don't judge a book by its cover here.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just been a crazy couple months as we've talked about with work here in Nashville. And then we had CMA Fest last week. And it's like I never want to sit on here and complain about any of the stuff that I'm doing because it is really fun. I feel very grateful to be so busy. And then you just hit a point too where you're tired. So I just
Yeah.
speak about it.
Yeah.
And that's where I am today. I'm just a little bit of a zombie after a shoot I had yesterday. So, anyway, we are here and you're actually leaving to go on the road again tonight. We've just been kind of all over the place, both of us, I feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm heading out to Toronto and then dipping down to the Bahamas.
Nice. A couple
Yes.
days off. We
Yeah.
actually are not going to be here next week. There is a new episode on Wednesday, but I told you we would discuss this and I just decided
Oh, look at that. Game
we're
time
we're
decision.
we're going to have a vacation next week and we talk about a lot on this podcast balance and we're really trying to get better about that. There will be an episode up, but that you guys will hear, but it'll be one of my favorites, one of our favorites that we've done before because we are going to be out of office.
Oh, 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 baby.
But this week on the podcast, I had Emma Dunwoody back. She is a human design specialist and coach. And I told Chip about it. And he's literally like, wait, what? There's a whole nother thing because
I was like,
astrology already
what? I have
confuses
to
me
Google
enough.
it. Like, what does that mean?
Well, and the hard thing about human design, I feel like with astrology, there's so much access to information about it now that it's a little more common to have some even semblance of understanding. Whereas with human design, like I look at my chart, and this is as a person who has known about human design and kind of worked with it a little bit ish. I would say an ish worked with it for a couple years, and I'm still like, what? What does that mean? Like it's a foreign language, truly.
Yeah, I mean, because she's we were going back and forth about what we were going to talk about, and she said to me, "Oh, my Wednesday podcast is about human design," and like that was the context of it all, and I was like, "What the? I've never even heard that term." So I didn't know what it was, and so I had to Google it, and up comes this like crazy chart that looks like a map of an airport.
Oh, that's
Like
an interesting
it kind of looks like a
observation.
weird terminals with all these like train
Yeah.
lines and stuff. And I mean, it's what it looks like. It's your upper body. So it's from your sacral to your, what's the top one? The crown.
Yeah, the crown.
Yeah.
Your third
Um,
eye.
yeah, it maps all of that. And I mean, I'm thoroughly confused.
Yeah.
So I want to get into this conversation just to sort of like get a baseline understanding of it. Um,
I'm like, I don't know if I can give that to you. Go listen to Wednesday's
Yeah, I'm gonna have
podcast
to
with
listen to
Emma.
Wednesday's
But the
podcast.
other thing about human design, I mean, I have an app too that's really helpful. Jenna Zoe is a great human
That's whose
design
website I'm
specialist.
on.
Yeah, so you went and took the test, I think, right?
Yeah.
And she is a great starting point. Also, if you want to download her app, there's just breakdowns and also it'll tell you timing. So it is similar, like astrology is tied into human design. So timing and planet shifts and all of that plays into the different readings that you'll get and the different breakdowns. It's just a little more complex in the way that it works with your body and the parts that you were just talking about, like the different points. And that was actually something Emma and I broke down on Wednesday because we've done the general podcast about it. Like you told me you took the test today and you're a projector.
Hmm.
I'm a generator, but there's so many more layers to it. It's kind of like the Enneagram where it's like you can go, "Oh, I'm a 7." And then someone's like, "Oh, what's your wing?" And it's all this whole new conversation then. It's like we're not all just this one piece of it. Like I'm a generator, but she was talking about a lot of things in my charts. Actually, this last time that she was like, "Oh, I see where you're a little different than what people would assume a generator would be like. Maybe you relate more to the projector readings." And so there's just these different pieces to it. It's way too much for me to try to explain to you because I don't know enough about it. But I do find it to be really helpful, just as I say with astrology, to go have a reading, like go have a reading with a human design specialist, and they're everywhere. You definitely can find them on Instagram. Emma is a really great one. Jenna Zoe is, these are like the bigger people, obviously, but they have like local. specialist here in Nashville, even. I'm doing another reading with someone this week, in fact, because I want to dive deeper into my human design and how it can help me in work, because I think
Right.
that's like a really specific place, which we're kind of going to touch on a little bit today, too. But yeah, it's just, I find this stuff so interesting because it's so fascinating to me that we come to this world and like we're almost taught that you're just supposed to do the X, Y, and Z's and make this life. Like you're supposed to meet the person you want to marry, have kids if you want, have this nice house, build a career, whatever it is. These are like the checklists we're given, you know? And then you start getting into some of this other stuff. And if you go on any sort of spiritual journey, and you're doing any sort of like personality test, Enneagram, astrology, human design, gene keys is another one. Not to overwhelm you, Chip. These are all just
Like,
different. Well, they're just different modalities that essentially can lead you to the same thing. So
right.
it's whatever speaks to you. But there's all these different things that tell us, if you start to work with these kind of modalities, that our soul is genuinely here for a specific reason, a specific journey. And so this generalized journey that our culture pitches is kind of wild because it's really not accurate at all. And it's so interesting because it can send us into so much shame for not being like everyone else, you know? And it's really this beautiful experience when you start diving into all this stuff to get to know your own unique soul journey and your own unique path and your own unique understanding of like why you're here. And I think those are like the big gifts and why I'm so fascinated with all of these different modalities and working with them.
Well, it's funny too, because you just listed a bunch of whys. And I was thinking earlier when I was reading about this stuff, something that I can see that's very different between you and me is that you ask the whys.
Mm,
Um, and I don't know if that has if it's like a personality trait or if it's a male female thing, or your soul is just craving it more than mine is.
yeah,
But I think that that's why a lot of this stuff feels like just Greek and gobbledygook to me because I'm not good at the whys very often, and because I just don't think I ask myself that enough.
totally.
I kind of like, without sounding flippant about life, I feel like I sort of just float through it.
Hmm.
And like my philosophy is always kind of it is what it is, and let's figure out a way around it. Which is funny because when I just read about what the projector, it says it's a projector is someone who can see better, more efficient, and upgraded approach to specific things.
Yep.
So, like for me, that kind of makes sense because I'm like, it is what it is, and I'm gonna figure out my way through it, and like
100%.
let it be what it's gonna be. And I'm not always gonna be happy about outcomes, but like it also is what it is. So if I can have that appreciation and acknowledgement to whatever situation, then ultimately I come out on the other end happier because I'm not like
Yeah.
fighting it. But it's very rarely do I ask the why, and I think
Right.
that's why this kind of stuff feels really funny to me. And I wonder if that's part of the reason why I like even hesitate to dig deeper
Maybe.
because I haven't asked the whys, and then that becomes a scary thing for me. It's because I also like it's funny. You know, we hear the phrase all the time, like everything happens for a reason.
Hmm.
And that feels a little cheap, but it also is, I think it can help people find hope. Um,
Hmm.
but I also do think it's like, it's a little bit more specific than it sounds, because if our lives are charted out in the way that a lot of people believe, then everything is happening for a very specific reason. I
100%.
think the thing that I struggle with is like the understanding of like it can't all just be fate because there have to be ingredients that like your soul couldn't have anticipated, like what another soul was gonna do and whatever. Like
Hmm.
you end up like life be life and sometimes,
Always.
and so you're like I guess that is how your soul would grow and morph is to get hit with a curveball and have to like figure something out. And if you're aware of your human design, then it would explain or help you sort of map your way around that situation or that curveball you've been thrown.
Right.
So to me, it does feel like gobbledygook a little bit because it's also new. Like I
Of
read that the guy who
course.
came up with it, like heard voices for 7 days, and then this is
Yeah.
what came out of it.
Yeah.
Um, I'm
Well, they
like,
call
well,
it downloads in the
what was
spiritual
he
community.
on?
But right. I
But
mean, who knows? He could have been on
I do
some
I believe in plant
psilocybin.
medicine too, and I do think
Yeah.
that like it that can like really sort of attach you to the world in a way that other
Like a
things.
higher consciousness.
Yeah, and like really probably ask yourself the whys.
Yeah.
But like this all seems crazy, but it's also it could explain a lot. And so I'm appreciative that I now even know that this exists because now I can dig in a little bit. It's probably all way over my head, but maybe it's time for me to get a reading and have a pro tell me about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just touched on exactly what I love doing about this podcast because I do like asking the whys. Like, I'm very curious, which is very much in my wiring. And the more I learn about human design and astrology and all that, like, I am literally here to do that. So it's one of what I would call a gift now. But I think you nailed it in the fact of like, if you're not thinking about the whys or whatever, it would be really easy for you to sit here with me and I'm speaking in this language or whatever, for you to maybe like shut down because you're a little overwhelmed with the information and then go, feel bad about that. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But the point exactly of this kind of work is what you said when you read about being a projector, because instead of feeling bad about not wanting to ask the same questions as me or do it the same way that I do, what you could do now that you're learning about being a projector is look at the point of you wanting to go find the other solution or whatever as the gift. So that's the gift that you could bring to any situation that like I don't bring that gift
Right,
necessarily. You
right.
know, like I bring another gift. I maybe want to sit in the depths with people and ask the questions and you're like, "Hey, here's the solution of how to go around this or whatever." And so it's like we all have these different offerings and that's the beauty in understanding it. It's not necessarily to go to any shame places or whatever, although all of this stuff has shadow sides that I do find to be really helpful when you're navigating different relationships. But even in the bigger picture of why I want to dive into this and you've kind of not done that yet. Like there's no shame in it. Like we were talking
Right.
about last time. It's just genuinely understanding that each of us bring these different facets to the table and you can't know that unless you like look at these things. I guess you can know it instinctively, but like I find it really helpful to have someone be like, "Oh, your soul lights up when you do this." And then you're like, "Oh, that makes so much sense because that's what like what you just said."
Yeah, I mean, I'm reading like because I didn't know I don't know what this chart means at all. You know, I did it right
Yeah,
before the call, and it's like outlines a bunch of gifts.
exactly.
And it's crazy.
Is it spot on?
It's pretty spot on.
Yeah. What numbers are you? Like
I've
I'm a
got a
four
bunch.
six.
Mine is a whole list.
Well,
It's
there's usually like
oh,
you're
your
like
most
a
important
general
gift is a 43, unique opinions and insights.
there.
That's
Well,
my
is
most
that
imp
not true for
I mean,
you?
it's very true.
Yeah.
And then
Well,
I've got a bunch of other gifts under it. Like it's a whole list.
right. So anyway, as you dive deeper into that, I had to ask the question, and Emma and I talked about this a lot because part of human design specifically, and like I told you guys, I'm having this reading later this week in Nashville, but she specifically works with like finding your purpose in your work life and things like that. And one of my big soul callings, and you can say this is because I'm an old soul, or I've had many different readings of people telling me why, but like if you believe in the old soul piece of it, like if you're an old soul, usually you're on some of your later lifetimes. And so you have this desire to make an impact, like in this big way. And like I've always had that and I can't explain that. Um, and I think it can take you, to be too driven in certain situations, but it also can be a really good asset for wanting to build something that, helps people, or I'm not saying it exactly right, but like to leave your legacy kind of
Right.
behind and
Right.
make an impact of some way. And so when Emma and I were talking, we very much dove into like purpose and how to use your human design to kind of figure out what your soul came here to do ultimately. And purpose is not always tied to work. Actually, a lot of times they say purpose and your work life are very separate, but we kind of label it that way. And your purpose is more of who you are at your core, what you want to bring to everyone in your life. I'm relating it to work in this situation because that's the journey I'm on right now. But anyway, it made me ask you about just purpose in general. Like, because there is, such a big feeling, I think, at my age. I'm 40, almost 43. So consider it midlife. When people have the midlife crisis, I think this is why you start to really realize, okay, on the second half of my life now. Like, I am in the later stages of it. And what am I doing? Like, I'm spending all this time at work, and like, is it really the thing that I want to leave behind, the legacy I want to leave behind? So, you really want to attach to the purpose of your life. I think at this stage, it starts to happen. So, I don't know if that's why I'm asking it or if it's something in the astrology right now, but I
Right.
do think that human design is a really big modality for that. And I wanted to ask you if you thought as a society, like, do we put too much pressure on purpose, or do you believe that we're all here for a specific reason to go on some specific soul journey in each lifetime?
Well, I mean, I definitely feel like we are sold the idea of finding your purpose, but when I started doing a little research about it, because I it's not something I sit with a lot and think about like what is my purpose?
Hmm.
Um
Which is
I don't
wild because I wake up every day and I'm like, why am I here? Like, it's
That's
just so
so funny.
interesting. Yeah, I know.
And I mean, because to me, it is what it is. But I also, too, like, I do think about legacy and I would love to leave a legacy behind. And often I'm reminded by things that I did for people that helped them out. And it created a job path for them or like and
Mm,
it was like for me it was like a little thing and I don't even remember doing it half the time and then people will like reach out and be like I owe you such a thank you like
yeah.
I'm here because of you did this and so I mean maybe I'm not supposed to know my purpose I'm just supposed to be and like do these things and but I started researching today like what is the purpose of finding your purpose and
Oh, that's interesting.
I feel like this list of things is really important because my idea of finding my purpose felt like it was something so specific that I needed to have like this aha moment where I'm like, oh my God, my purpose is to make sure that like every child on the continent of Africa is fed. Like I feel like that's what
Yeah,
we are taught is like finding
totally.
your purpose. Or to rescue every stray animal in all of
Hmm.
Guatemala. Like, I think people do land on very specific things like that. And those are the ones that like tend to get like publicity and we hear about them and then
Yeah.
you feel the shame like well fuck what's my purpose but
Yes.
so this list I think clarified it a little bit so um these are the basically finding your purpose is the goal of finding your purpose is to give your life direction and meaning and some sense of like cohesion so
Okay.
more specifically clarity is one of the things that you want. Once you know your purpose, it gives you some clarity. It helps you to
Yes.
prioritize your time and energy and the things that you're choosing to do. And once you know what matters most to you, decisions become easier. So you're more clear when
Mm,
making decisions. A clear purpose also gives you motivation because it can sustain you like when you like are up against a wall or have a setback or something because you're more likely to fight for something that you feel like is really meaningful.
sure.
So it gives you motivation. It brings you connection. So purpose will like link you to something bigger than yourself, whether it's like your community, art, your spirituality, your
Mm-hmm.
legacy,
Mm-hmm.
acts of service, those sorts of things. And then it brings you fulfillment.
Okay.
So, happiness can be really fleeting because it's moment by moment. But when you have purpose, that sort of finding your purpose and acting toward it brings you like a much more deep satisfaction, I guess is the way to
Mm-hmm.
phrase it. And then the last one is resilience, which is funny because this one also it says in difficult times, having a why can help you endure the how.
Well,
So,
you know what? I think that is true, and that's been true for me. The reason I got into any of this stuff, and I talked about it along a couple podcasts ago with Dr. Lisa Miller, but the catalyst for my entire spiritual journey, I mean, granted, I grew up in a very like a Christian household, so spirituality in that way, and via religion was always a part of my life, and there was a big connection. And then as I got older, I didn't resonate with that as much. But I hit some big, I don't, what do you even call those? I went through some things that I deemed really hard, or they were really hard, but I deemed really bad at the time. And it just sent me on this journey though, because there was like, it didn't, the rhyme or reason of things didn't make sense to me. And so then all of a sudden I was like, wait, everything I knew back in, my Christian days taught me this. And then there was other things I had done, spiritual things that I had done learning wise. And I was like, this can't just be. There's a bigger thing happening here. And I wanted to uncover that. And so it's really, I still take a lot of those principles with me. Like, I don't think you ever lose those things. It's just expanded. And so these kind of things are ways that I find to connect to the journey or the whys of why things happen, and not to feel so much like a victim of it, to feel
Right.
more empowered by it in a way.
Yeah.
Even the painful things, as hard as they are, it helps me to process through them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, kind of get to the other side versus really stay stuck in it for the rest of your life.
Yeah. I mean, you brought up the Christianity part of it, or of your life, and it made me
Yeah.
think like, I feel like in the church, it's often that you're told your purpose is to serve the Lord.
Mhm.
And for some people that might actually be the truth. But I feel like if we are all part of God, which is also something that, is believed in the Christian faith, then our purpose should be to find our purpose. And in
The why
doing
of why you're,
so,
yeah.
serve the Lord.
Hmm.
And I think, Christianity it's the largest religion in the world and certainly in the US. And I think that the shame probably comes from there's the indoctrination of believing that your sole purpose on earth is to serve the Lord.
Well, you know
And
what it is? It's that same thing we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, what you're describing. It's that all of our lives should look exactly the same. And I
right,
think that's what's a little false in that teaching. I see why it was the human interpretation of what the Bible said, but I think it's the same thing I was saying, where if you believe that one statement, it's hard to feel like your interpretation of what that looks like or your version of how you express that gift or whatever is accepted. And I think that's a little bit what people struggle with religion, is it is so rigid in some of these things, and it doesn't allow for us all to bring our own unique gifts and our own unique versions to the table, which is
right.
really what I believe would help
Well, I think
everyone.
it has been morphed into that because it's
Right.
also about control.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Right.
it is a business, and it is
Well, and
about
it's
controlling
human
their
interpretation, and
at
humans
a
are
100%.
full of
Yeah,
fallacy. Like, it's to me not probably what the intention was, and it's in some places got a little off course. I don't think that's true for all, but
right. No,
that's where
not
I
for
say, like,
that's not a blanket
take what you
statement.
like and leave the rest. Like, that is a true statement for how I live my life, because there's a lot that I still pull from the Bible and the things that I learned growing up, the principles to live by. But I don't go to church every Sunday. It's not what really resonates with my soul at this point. There's
Right,
pieces of it I will never, there's like integrated into my life, I think. And it's just expanded. And the more I've gone out in the world too, I'm like, well, I can pull a lot from like Buddhism and other religions as well. Like, I love a lot of the Buddhist teachings because there's so much about not attaching to the things that we attach to in this world. Like, that genuinely helps me the most, probably now, those kind of mentalities. And I speak about a lot of the Buddhist principles here. I wouldn't consider myself Buddhist by any
right.
means. I pull a lot from 12 step, I pull a lot from astrology. Like, to me, it's a more holistic, like, I know a lot of people get frustrated and people say spiritual, not religious, but that is what it is. It's just that there is some sort of higher power that I feel very connected to, that I feel is within me. And if you want to call that God, okay. If you want to call it the tree next to us, okay. Like, it doesn't
Or the
matter to me.
universe or whatever it is.
Exactly. It's just something bigger than me at play here. And that can be your own soul too. Your own soul came down here with a purpose. So,
Well, and I mean, and if that is true and it's all integrated
mhm.
under one God, then the bigger thing is really we. You know, it's all of us. Because the
Exactly.
energy that, you know, one person is putting out in the world, it has to go somewhere, and it either bumps into your energy and ricochets off of it, or it's absorbed in some way, or a combination of the two. But energy never stops moving.
No.
Um, so, you know, I think like to believe in a religious God or a spiritual God, it's kind of the same thing.
Right.
And that's what you were saying, like call it what you want. But it really is. It's just like this like energy life force that we're just one very small ingredient of.
Well, and the we is such a big piece to me because I think at the end of the day, if you look at any religion or any sort of healing modality, the concept of we is very important. It's like
Hmm.
learning about yourself to know what you can bring to the collective consciousness. Like even if that isn't on a public platform scale, like that's another thing I've been thinking about too. It's like what we do in our small settings, in our small communities, in our day-to-day life. And I think we've seen so much divisiveness over the last couple of years that it's really easy to kind of see that how we've lost the concept of we. You're never going to
Hmm.
agree with everyone, but if you show up and do your part for the collective or for the group or whatever, what happens then? Because, like we said earlier, I bring a totally different skill set than you bring, but like I really benefit from your skill set often, and I would hope
Right.
the same is true for you. And so it's
Yeah.
like, it's just how do we give to each other with our own unique gifts? But first, you have to understand your own unique gifts. I think that's kind of the point to me of like human design to circle
Right.
back
Right.
to what,
Yeah.
what we're even talking about.
We're
But
like, what are we even talking about?
hey,
And the
let's
thing,
dissect religion.
well, I mean, for those of you who are listening that haven't ever heard of human design like myself, like I will
Yeah,
tell you, you'll look at this map and you'll be like, what the fuck is this?
this is why you need a guide. Yes.
But I do think that once you or any of us are able to make an understanding of it, then I do think it like will help reduce any sort of shame
Yeah.
or whatever feelings you feel for being at all different than even your best friends.
Hmm.
Because kind of what's beautiful about being humans is we're all so much alike in so many ways, but we're like snowflakes, you know?
Yeah.
It's
Every single one is different. You
hmm
know what's interesting? I'm wondering if our culture is going to shift to that mentality that you just described. Because have you noticed, even in like the beauty conversation? I don't know if this is different with girls versus boys, but everyone's kind of starting to talk about, all the shit we've all been pumping into our faces for however many years, and the fact that so many people are starting to look exactly alike. I think that's like
hmm
a bit of what people call the Kardashian effect. Um, whether that's truly what it was or not, but it is true. Like we've almost brainwashed ourselves into looking at beauty in this one construct. And so if you have the perfect nose and the perfect jawline, and no forehead wrinkles, then you're beautiful. Or, big boobs and a big butt or whatever. And now everyone's like, oh, but maybe we don't want a big butt anymore. And so that surgery's being reversed. And it's just, anyway, all of it to say is like social media almost creates like even these filters that look a certain way because we've trained our brains to think that that is beautiful. And back when I was younger, I just remember being unique was actually what was beautiful, like having a different look about
Yeah,
you.
that was so much cooler.
And I think in other countries that is still the case often. Maybe that's a generalization, but I hope that we move towards that again in beauty and really appreciate different body types and different face shapes and different nose shapes and imperfections as this cool, unique, beauty thing. Like I remember having a friend growing up with a gap in her teeth, and I thought it was so cool and beautiful and unique. Now everyone would get that fixed with veneers, like
Right.
I have a hump on my nose. How many times have I thought about having a nose job because of that? And I'm like really, really trying. I mean, maybe one day I will. I'm not going to promise you guys anything, but I just like, I really try to like embrace that as this is different about me. This is unique. Like, I don't know. I can still be pretty with it or whatever. Like, but it's the way we talk to ourselves. So I wonder that about humans in general moving forward, if we're getting sick of everyone being the same a little bit. And I hope that we really start to attach to everyone's unique beauty and everyone's unique insides, their like what they can bring to the table, their unique gifts. I don't know. Have you noticed that at all, or is that just
Yeah,
me?
well, what's funny is when I think back to like what supermodels looked like when we were
They
younger,
were all so
they were
different.
all so different. And it was truly like what made them weird was what made them beautiful. And
100%.
now, and I think, and maybe this is the Kardashian effect, maybe it is just social media in general.
Yeah.
Um, the algorithm, like if they think if you look at one person that's like looks a certain way with beautiful hair, like beautiful skin and blonde hair, and you like it, the computer thinks you like this person that looks like this. So I'm going to show you other people that look like this. And the next
Right.
thing you know, your whole world is the algorithm's just feeding you people that look the same. And that becomes what you are accustomed to or like better or whatever. And then you start to morph into that. So I feel like it is a technological thing that's happening too,
Yeah.
that's beyond our control and we don't even realize it's happening.
That's probably true.
And just like, and then those people like are influencers, so it's like they're driving the algorithm more. And I don't know, it's a really interesting thing because when I like occasionally someone will pop in pop culture now that is incredibly awkward looking,
Mm-hmm.
but also really like Benedict Cumberbatch. It's like he's arguably one
Oh,
of the like, most interesting, handsome men, but he's not stereotypical in any
right.
way.
Right.
But I feel like it's much more rare now than it used to be.
Oh, I agree. So that's what I'm hoping the shift comes. I mean, everything
Yeah,
cycles
yeah,
back,
I think it
right?
will.
So,
I think it will. I think we're gonna get tired of the same old, same old.
yeah. I mean, that's talking about the outsides, but I do think it's connected to the insides and in a weird way connected to the reason why we're even talking about purpose and the importance of kind of understanding what yours is and your own just unique gifts. I mean, I keep using that term, but like that is what these modalities bring you. And I think the more we all dive into getting to know ourselves on those levels, the more interested we'll become in people being different and what they can bring to the table versus like going, okay, well, X, Y, and Z means you're successful or you'll be successful. Or if you do X, Y, and Z, that means you figured it out in life and you're,
Right.
you know how to adult more than the rest of us. Like, I don't think that we're designed for that. I really don't. I think that's just some weird made up thing we've done in this society. But
Hmm.
I think the more that we individually kind of rebel against that and get to know ourselves on these levels, the quicker we'll get out of that thinking and it
Yeah.
changes.
Yeah.
So, anyway, if you guys want to go check out Human Design, Emma is a great um, avenue for that because she has her own podcast as well. And she's been on the podcast twice. So, if you did listen to Wednesday and you're kind of like, huh, go back and listen to the first one I did with Emma because she does the very foundational parts of human design and the stuff that when you pull up your chart, you'll immediately see like the projector generator, manifesting generator, those pieces that we kind of touched on. And then this last one on Wednesday, we really broke down some stuff that I didn't understand about defined centers or undefined centers and how that can change everything in a person's chart, which really helped me put some things together for myself. So, if you know a little bit more about human design, that might be a really interesting one for you. Also, go check out her podcast because if you're like Chip and you're like, what is this shit? She's really, really good and she's very foundational and she's Australian. So, like, her voice is just pleasant to listen to for me. I love her accent. So, anyway, yeah, definitely go check that out. And if you do a reading or you're diving into this or you have any questions, you can always hit us up. You can email us at theedge@velvetsedge.com. I am also on Instagram at velvetsedge. Chip.
I'm at Chip Dorsch. It's ChipDorsch.
And as you guys go into the weekend and you're living on the edge, I hope you always remember to.
Act casual.
Oh, that was so song-like
Yeah, I was
today.
like, came out
Okay.
leaned in.
Yeah, yeah, you really are giving them a little extra for this week.
That's
Okay.
my purpose today.
All right, you guys. Bye.
Bye.